My name is Dr. Emily Desiderio. I'm the school psychologist at East Bradford Elementary School in Chester County. We are meeting today on December 4th, 2012 to discuss the progress and development of Peter DeMaio, who is currently a 10-year-old in 5th grade who has autism. I'm going to pass the IEP form around to everyone to sign on page 2 just for the record that you were all here. And as it's passed to you, please introduce yourself for everybody at the table.
Hello, I'm Cara Viola, and I'm Peter's general education teacher.
I'm Alyssa Capelli, and I'm Peter's special education teacher.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Emily Noblinski, Peter's speech and language pathologist.
And I'm Lauren DeMaio, Peter's mother.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to evaluate how Peter is doing in his current placement and make any necessary adjustments for the next year. Mrs. DeMaio, did you receive and sign the procedural safeguard notice?
Yes.
Okay, great. So now if you could just sign this notice on page 3 saying that you received it, and then when you're done, if you could just give us a little background knowledge on Peter and what he's like at home, that would be great.
Sure, I would love to. Peter was diagnosed with a very mild case of autism at the age of 3. He has been showing progress at home and is becoming more comfortable communicating with my husband, his siblings, and myself. We are very happy to see him making visible progress. He has always been in general education and special education classes. He was originally in special education for half of the day, but since he made such immense progress in certain classes, he was put back into the general education for most of them. He will also be taking the PASA this year, so I want him to be as prepared as possible. He has improved so much academically, and it is shown on his report card, but I would love to see him improve in his communication skills.
Okay, thank you for sharing with us, and we all really appreciate it because it'll be very helpful. And now we're going to hear a little bit from Peter's general education teacher, Mrs. Diola.
Thank you. I'd like to start off on a positive note. I really enjoy having Peter in my class, and it's clear to me that the other students are very accepting of his disability and include him as much as possible. He's in my class for most of the day, which includes science, math, history, and he also participates in electives with the other students like gym and art. It's very obvious that Peter has a hard time communicating with others. Like when he works in groups, it's hard for him to initiate conversation. Peter is definitely a visual and tactile learner, which is beneficial to him, especially with math and science. He seems to really enjoy working with numbers and doing labs. However, when he has trouble communicating verbally, he gets very frustrated. This ends up leading to some self-stimulating behaviors, which is mostly rocking in his chair and hand flapping either on his leg or the desk. This is obviously very distracting for the other students and myself as well, and one goal that I would like to present to this team is limiting the number of outbursts during the day to prevent distractions.
He does this. He also does this in my class, and I find it very distracting too.
If it's okay with the rest of the team, I would like to implement having to limit the number of outbursts by having Peter use a system similar to the traffic light.
Okay, could you elaborate on that a little more, please?
Sure. With the red and green, he will have 2 flashcards. One is red and one is green, where he can change them depending on how he's feeling throughout the day. This will help him and the other students to understand his emotions. If Peter changes the card to red, that indicates that he's very upset. And if he changes it to green, that means he's ready to go and learn. When the card is red, his paraprofessional can take him for a walk in order to calm him down. This way Peter will be able to communicate with his emotions by the means of the cards without any outbursts. To end, I would like to say that Peter is a very intelligent student, and I hope to have him in my class.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mrs. Diola. Those are all very important points you brought up, and I personally really like the traffic light idea. I think that's very creative.
I agree. Thank you.
And now if we could hear from Mrs. Capelli, Peter's special ed teacher. She can tell us about his behavior in her classroom.
Thank you, Dr. Desiderio. I have Peter for the remainder of the day, and we work on language arts, including reading, writing, comprehension, and spelling. Peter is currently in 5th grade, but he is at a 3.5 comprehension level. He has mastered his previous goal, which was getting 15 out of 20 spelling words correct out on a spelling test every time. Since he has achieved that, I would like to have him verbally spell out the words to me after writing them down to work on improving his speaking skills.
Okay, thank you. That's also a very important goal you mentioned, which we will discuss later on. And moving forward, we will hear from Peter's speech and language pathologist.
Okay, thank you. Again, my name is Dr. Danilitsky, and I work with Peter one-on-one twice a week for about 40 minutes each time during his math class. In addition to our private sessions, Peter uses the PECS communication board in both his general and special ed classes. We added this to our assistive technology last year, but in my opinion, it doesn't seem to be working for him because he still gets frustrated very often. I would like to propose having him use a new kind of technology called ProLoCo Go, which is an application available on the iPad.
I've had experience with children who use that application, and it is very beneficial.
Okay, yeah, because this way his communication will be faster. He can type using an attached keyboard. He can hear the words being spoken aloud, and this will be very beneficial to his teachers, Ms. Stiola and Mrs. Capelli, because then you guys will be able to hear the device speaking for him.
Thank you. I agree. I think that would really benefit him.
I also really like the idea of the iPad app. I think it would be very helpful to him. But could you please just explain a little bit more about what goes on during your speech sessions?
Yes, of course I can. I would be happy to. I work with Peter on his conversation skills, like how to carry conversation and what is appropriate to say and when to say it. We also work on concept skills, like using abstract words that are concrete in definition, but which are typically hard for young children to understand, especially one struggling with autism. And now, if we have ProLoCo Go, I will also work with him on how to use the app and how to use the iPad. And I think it'll be a good device for him to use, especially because he's never shown any destructive or aggressive behavior. So I think we can definitely trust him with an iPad.
Yes, I agree. Thank you for explaining that. The only adjustment that I would like to make is possibly moving his speech to after school, but keeping them on the same days. I would like to do this because I want Peter to be present for all of his math classes to help him prepare for the PASA.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely fine with me. We can discuss the arrangements at a later time, but I'd definitely be willing to work with him after school.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's a really good idea, just having him be in math more to definitely help with the PASA. But thank you both for your input and your beliefs about Peter. And just to summarize the meeting, I just want to go over the goals and objectives for Peter. So Mrs. Joel, if you want to start, we can work our way back around the table.
Sure. My first objective for Peter would be to increase his social communication skills. And in order to do this, a benchmark would be that he would initiate communicative interactions with others 3 out of the 5 opportunities he gets. And the second goal, I would like to increase his emotional and behavioral skills. And in order to do so, Peter will remove himself from the class when having an outburst 3 out of the 5 times. And I just want to remind everyone that these goals and objectives are subject to change due to his improvement or lack of improvement.
Thank you, Mrs. Capelli. If you want to go next?
Sure. First, given a story or informational text on a 4.5 grade level, Peter will demonstrate comprehension by answering 10 questions about the story upon completion of the level-based story. Secondly, Peter will be able to verbally spell out 15 out of 20 words after writing them down to practice speaking more and improve pronunciation.
I think that sounds good. Okay, Mrs. Nowinski, if you could proceed.
Yes. Just to review, Peter's assistive technology and classroom modifications will now include an iPad with the ProLoCo Go app, which he will use in both his special education and general education classes in place of his PECS communication board.
Okay, and Mrs. DeMatt, just want to remind you again that we will be closely monitoring Peter's progress, and that everything discussed today can be adjusted depending on his reactions to all of these modifications.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate all the effort that all of you have put into Peter and helping him.
Yes, we are all more than happy to help Peter, and we want him to improve just as much as you do. Are there any other questions or concerns today?
No.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for all coming, and this concludes the meeting.
Okay.